Good morning, Marshall family. It's your boy Turtle Sage here for another combat commentary. And today's combat commentary is about a subject that's been, kind of on my mind for a bit. And it's why one of the martial arts I study gets a bad rap. And that art would be ninjutsu. Now, there's many reasons I will go into, but let's start with what ninjutsu is. Ninjutsu is a Japanese battle art, basically kind of created as an answer. It was basically kind of a counterculture to the order of the day, which was the feudal era, the warring states periods, and the daimyo and the shogun and the samurai, and basically people who did not want to live under the oppressive, rigid structure of the Bushido culture, and how, you know, the samurai ran things. And a lot of times they were defected samurai who were just tired of the BS that they personally witnessed, but a lot of times they were mostly farmers and merchants, you know, and the like, which is why a lot of times ninjas, shinobi, basically had to MacGyver their tools. Well, in the case of farmers, they didn't have money like, say, the samurai or a wealthy merchant to purchase arms or get a swordsmith, pay them, and craft elegant katanas and whatnot. Not to say that ninja didn't have swords. They obviously knew how to sword fight. They learned it from obviously the defected samurai and refined it over thousands, about 1,000 years, so to speak. And basically, the art of ninjutsu refers to, it's an umbrella term that refers to the 18 disciplines of the shinobi. And what you've seen for me specifically is one of the disciplines, unarmed combat, or taijutsu, or taijutsu, however you want to say it. And you also have shuriken jutsu, the art of infiltration, and the art of basically using swords. Well, you haven't seen me use katana yet. You have stick fighting, knife fighting, how to set booby traps, using the different elemental aspects. And what I mean by that is specifically not weaving hand signs like Naruto and a gout of flame comes up, or the earth splits in half or anything like that. No, it's like, okay, an example of the different kumai, elemental kumais would be like fire, earth, water, wind, and the void. The example of fire kumai, fire refers to offense, water refers to defense, and any moves that would basically use to send, like, you take defense, but it's in a straight line. It goes back and forth like an ocean wave. Or would be like, okay, if I were to do battle by using a water element, would be like, okay, if I basically caused a flood somewhere as a distraction to come in and assassinate somebody, or to drown a bunch of soldiers. That's water kumai. Or me swimming under the water with the reed and sneaking by and then using that as a cover to come in to do my dirty work. That's water kumai. Fire kumai would be like using explosives or guns. Anything that uses fire, offense. You'd be used as a distraction. Smoke bombs is an example. Is a great example of fire kumai. Earth kumai would be like setting booby traps in the earth, or basically standing your ground, sturdy like the earth. but I digress. We can get into that that's a whole nother video, but you get where I'm coming from. What they would have you believe about it, that ninja were these super soldiers with crazy powers that could single-handedly wipe out an entire battalion of samurai. Not true. Most ninja were peasants, as I've said, and because they're peasants, they can't afford things like heavy armaments, like, the lacquered armor that you see samurai wear, or these big swords. So a ninja with a chain sickle or a katana and basically some heavy silk robes or whatever, or some basic chainmail charging a bunch of samurai is suicide. They will die. I don't care how good of a fighter you are. If you're fighting somebody with armor, you do not have armor, and you're fighting multiple guys with armor without the aid of a team or some other means to throw the fight in your favor, if you just have a dagger, you charge, you're going to die horribly. But there it is. So they would use these disciplines to work in secret, kind of like any intelligence agency ever. Your CIA, your Navy SEALs, your Delta Force, MI6, Mossad, KGB, the Hashashins of northern Persia, the Mujahideen, all of that work in secret. That's how they get the job done, because a simple farmer opposing the samurai in public, that's again suicide. And I know the Japanese are famous for ways to die willingly, but more often than not, if they could avoid, dying on a mission, all the better. They're gathering information mostly. Fighting is a last resort for ninjas. That doesn't mean they didn't do it. You have stories like Hattori Hanzo and basically Grandmaster Hatsumi Masaki's master, Takamatsu Sensei. He was known to kick a lot of behind in his day, and he was known as the Mongolian Tiger. Likewise, the first mission of a ninja is don't get caught gathering intelligence and doing what you do, which is why they were hired by each side in a war. They were basically, a lot of them were mercenaries who would, work either, and sometimes they would work for a daimyo, and like the Iga ninja of the Iga province eventually worked for Tokugawa Ieyasu at the end of the Warring States period, and they became palace guards, security. Gee. Now, as for why they get a bad rap, is basically, one, you have a lot of fraudulence. It's the same as like Kung Fu, Tai Chi. You have folks claiming to be this great Kung Fu master, this great master, and they, one of the things I say with any martial art you do, lineage matters. Like, okay, for example, for Tai Chi, I can trace my martial lineage all the way back to Chen Village. That's pretty much a guarantee that, you can trace, all Tai Chi eventually goes back to Chen Village, and by proxy, Wudan, or Wu-Tang, however you say it. All ninjutsu, in America at least, goes back to Bujinkan, and then goes back to Hatsumi Masaki in Japan. He's founder of Bujinkan, and thus eventually back to Iga and Koga and all of that. Now, you have frauds claiming to be something they're not. A famous one would be Frank Dukes. The one, I've been fighting the Kumite. I know all these ninja skills, and I was taught by this, and I can catch bullets with my teeth and crouching tiger spanks his monkey. Yeah, we get it. So that's not helping it. And then ninjas also, there's a lot of mysticism surrounding what they do. Ninjas, again, because they played on the lack of information during the day, their whole campaign was misinformation. Oh, you don't know if I'm a Tengu demon Oni here to seek revenge, so you better give a tribute or I will eat your children. And feed their stomachs to the god Raijin. So, or it's kind of like, okay, if you for my Batman fans, most criminals thought that Batman was an urban myth. They thought he was a vampire who drank blood. Some thought he was a cyborg created by the government to scare criminals. No, it's just a man in a bat costume. No, just a bunch of farmers in cloaks going around knifing people and blowing stuff up and causing chaos to enemies of the state or enemies of their village. Corrupt bureaucrats trying to tax them, and they didn't want to be taxed. Well, like the game Tenchu, corrupt. First mission: execute the corrupt merchant. So, but I digress. So you have a lot of misinformation, a lot of frauds, but again, goes back to Bujinkan and all that. In fact, there is a great episode of, it was on the History Channel a long time ago. Stephen Hayes, famous ninjutsu master, who was like one of Grandmaster Hatsumi's students, did basically a show about what ninjutsu is, and he basically disguised himself as like a cameraman and revenge it. And basically this bodyguard group was said, you gotta protect this guy. He got past the bodyguards and got the job done. I suggest you watch it. Look up Stephen Hayes and History Channel. It's great stuff. Now, as for media, one of the ways a martial art gets a good rap is through media. Well, that's usually the main way. You get on camera, or someone records you, someone tells stories about you winning fights. For example, Bruce Lee. It's probably the most famous example. Jeet Kune Do became real famous because, one, he did movies, two, he goes to tournaments, like I do, and three, he has sparring matches with random people, like Chuck Norris, or Bill Superfoot Wallace, or Joe Louis. Karate Joe Louis, not boxing Joe Louis. Now, in the modern era, we have, many different, organizations where you can do that, getting the octagon with the UFC. And when you break down ninjutsu, the unarmed combat of ninjutsu to its bare bones, its closest relative is probably jujitsu, or judo, and the samurai arts. When you fight in a tournament versus fighting on a battlefield, there are no rules, just win or die. In a tournament setting like the UFC, there's rules. You can't use small joint manipulation. You can't bite people. You can't hit people in their pressure points. Can't groin shot them. Can't hit them in the throat. You can choke them, but you can't hit them in the throat. You can't drop an elbow on them from 12 o'clock, and etc. So, with that in mind, you have to consider that, if you're not out doing that, then guess what? You're not going to be as famous. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu got famous because it was one of the Gracies. I think it was Royce Gracie won UFC 1. So now everybody is like, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the truth. No, you just had somebody who was good at the art. Any martial art used properly in context of a combat situation can be highly effective. Again, I refer you to the video about Tai Chi that I did as a martial art. Chen Wang Ting was a general in the military. Well, ninjutsu was used in war, just like Tai Chi, just like Muay Thai, or Muay Boran was the predecessor. or capoeira or Shaolin Fist. They were all used in war at some point. Now, war evolves, people evolve, ninjutsu evolved. So, with that said, you have a lot of stories and whatnot. You've seen me fight my teacher. You've seen me fight other people. So, I'm not just blowing smoke up your behind. Okay? My ninjutsu teacher, Mr. Ross Saborin, 8th degree black belt, wrecked me in 1 minute and 30 seconds. You can see it on my YouTube channel under Turtle Sage Takes an L. Very good fighter. St. Louis, Heartland Ninjutsu in Maplewood, St. Louis. I suggest if you live here, go pay him a visit. He's the truth. Now, as back to the media of it all, here we are. There's good representations and there's bad representations. Good representations would be like, from if you're going by fantasy, would be like Batman, Netflix Daredevil. That's a good example of modern ninjutsu. The Hunted, and a lot of movies like that. In video games, you have Tenchu, Stealth Assassins, one of my favorite games of all time. Good example of how ninja operate. Fighting games, specifically Tekken. Now, people will think, oh, well, Yoshimitsu's kind of weird and Raven, and I'm like, no, well, they're not what I would be thinking of as a good example of what how a ninja would operate. I would say like Nina Williams, the way she grapples, and her use of, in her cutscene, she's an assassin, uses guns. John Wick, in the last John Wick, there were actual ninjas using kadachis, using the grappling arts, and it's like, oh, okay, that's good stuff. Bad examples, 1987 Ninja Turtles. That's horrible. They're going out in daylight. They're being seen constantly. It's like they're not using stealth. Bad example. Another bad example, Naruto. They're not going to be weaving hand signs. They're going to have grand speeches. No, they're going to use stealth. They're not going to fight each other head to head like that. In fact, watching that, the only two ninja, quote unquote ninjas on that show that were actually very ninja were Kakashi, who covered his face, and Itachi, who was a double agent. So, again, but then that's anime, so expect it with a grain of salt. A good example, a good YouTube channel I recommend everyone go check out is Gaijin Goomba, and he has a series called Which Ninja, and he picks out famous ninjas in media and decides whether or not grades them on how accurate they would be to real life ninja. He did one with Batman, he did one with the Ninja Turtles. Pretty good stuff. I highly recommend it. I'll leave a link in the description. Now, my final thoughts on this is basically it's like this. With proper media representation, it can it can get a good rap. But obviously, you got folks, especially the 1980s did not help. You had a lot of cheesy movies, and people think, oh, well, this is what ninjutsu is. These are what ninjas are. They're like, no, it's not that. I suggest you also do your own research. Before I ran into Sensei Ross Saborin, I didn't even think ninjas were real. I was like, okay, that's just Hollywood. But no, there is historical reference of them being real. The fighting arts are real. I highly suggest if you really want to learn some good fighting techniques, you want to protect yourself, self-defense, you want to go on a spiritual journey of your own, I highly suggest you take up the art. It's good art. If you work in law enforcement or the military, again, I highly suggest you take up that art. If you want to stay physically fit, I highly suggest you take up that art. So with that said, I hope I can help, through my channel, give a good representation of what the art is. You can see me on my journey. You can see me practice. You can see me fight. You could see me demonstrate techniques from class. And, and learn something yourself. But again, nothing beats taking up the class yourself. So with that said, practice hard, my friends. Be water and get stronger. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you saw. Turtle Sage signing out.